The Mindful Medic podcast is proudly sponsored by the Medical Benevolent Association of New South Wales, ACT. The MBA is an independent charity that has been supporting doctors in New South Wales and the ACT since 1896. They provide specialised counselling, information, referral and financial assistance to doctors and their families during times of adversity or hardship. Their aim is to provide non-judgmental support so that the doctor or family member recovers their well-being and independence and, wherever possible, returns to their vocation. Their services are free, specialised and no referral is necessary. All contact is kept strictly confidential and they are independent of any regulatory body. Hi everyone, and a warm welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Cheryl Martin. I am excited this episode. I get to indulge another one of my favourite topics. Regular listeners will know if I'm not talking about emergency medicine or some aspect of performance and well-being in my profession, then I do love to talk about running and, particularly my love of trail running. And today's guest really allows me to indulge in this topic, which is a little bit ironic because I find myself a slightly incapacitated runner at the moment. I have a little niggle and I haven't been running much the past couple of weeks. I know all the runners out there are nodding knowingly. This does seem to be part of the life journey of a runner. And it's quite funny, I was listening to Hugh van Cuylenburg, a previous guest on this podcast, who's also a mad keen runner, and he was reflecting on his last season of running. I think he'd only managed to race once or twice and, thoroughly enjoyed the opportunity to do that, but did comment that the only problem with being a 41-year-old runner is that you have 41-year-old hamstrings. And I, being of the same vintage, and, it is my 40-something-year-old hamstrings that are protesting at the moment. I really felt that one and appreciated that. So solidarity there. And to any injured runner out there, we'll be back soon. So today was, some solace being able to indulge in this conversation. I've also mentioned that for season 3, there was a couple of themes that I particularly wanted to focus on. And I think lessons in leadership, I'll have said, is one of those big themes, and particularly how we make things happen and how change comes about, and how we do that as individuals and as teams. We'll also revisit some themes that tend to recur through this podcast. We know that we are wired for connection. It's one part of why I love this podcasting process. And I think today's guest speaks very well of the power of bringing people together and creating community, and also of connection to place and to trail. I got quite swept up in this conversation. I learned something about him that I hadn't previously known, and in terms of the goal, the vision, the passion, the purpose. I think you'll find it difficult not to get swept up in the flow of this conversation. I know that you're going to really enjoy. So without further ado, let's meet today's guest.
Everything that I'm doing with the Kunanyi Mountain Run, Kunanyi Trail Series, the Churchill, Tasmanian Trail Running Association, and Hobart Trail Runners, it's all aligned. It's all in the same direction of connecting people with nature out on the trails, building community. And so every cent or every second of time spent on any of those is all valuable to, strive towards the end goal.
You've just been listening to today's guest, who I'm delighted to welcome to the podcast, Lincoln Quilliam. So Lincoln is a civil engineer and project manager by background, and he has a real passion for adventure, travel, innovation. He is the founder and race director of the inaugural Kunanyi Mountain Run, which we'll talk about today. He's also a run director at the Kunanyi Trail Series, the owner of Trail Ventures, and the vice president of the Tasmanian Trail Running Association. He is a recipient of a Winston Churchill Fellowship here in Tasmania that will allow him to further explore and develop his passion for trail running and for bringing great trail running experiences to Tasmania. He's a previous graduate of the Tasmanian Leaders I Lead programme. So in this conversation, we'll discuss his leadership journey, his various roles in the Tasmanian trail running community, and we'll talk about this exciting inaugural event that he is bringing to Hobart. And I love this conversation. I know you will too. If you are interested in signing up to any of the events that he mentions, they will all be listed in the show notes. Enjoy. Good morning, Lincoln. I'm so excited.
Morning, Cheryl.
How are you?
Oh, awesome, mate. It's a beautiful day here in Nipaluna, Hobart. I'm actually looking at the organ pipes and Kunanyi and the forested foothills of Hobart. It's a beautiful day. Great to be here.
We've just had a conversation that I don't do a video for this podcast, and this would be a day to do video. So I'm getting treated to this amazing place that we live in and the views. And I think you're the perfect person to talk to and speak to, about the place that we are lucky to live here in beautiful Tasmania. As I understand, you were born and bred in Tasmania, and I know that you have worked and lived overseas. Can you tell me what is so special about this place and why it means so much to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I born and bred Hobartian, seventh generation Tasmanian. I think our ancestors dropped into the northwest corner of Tassie. Of course, that pales into comparison to the Palawa people. The Tasmanian Aboriginals have been here for thousands of generations. But I grew up in Waterworks Valley, just near the reserve, so in the foothills of the mountain, and I got to know well her moods and rain and cold winters and all the like. But I didn't truly appreciate Hobart for the amazing beauty and how close we are, like having the mountain on our doorstep of, every suburb basically of Hobart, until I moved away. So I moved to Melbourne, flat. Can't see anything. What's going on? Whoa, that was a shock. Then, lived and worked across Australia, Europe, the US, and then PNG most recently for 5 years. And it was always a matter of when, not if, I was moving home to settle and start a family. And we are just so lucky. The views. Every house has a view almost in Hobart, and having this amazing natural landscapes on our doorstep with heaps of tracks and trails to explore. It's a mountain bikers, bushwalkers, trail runners, bird watchers, flora, fauna. Anyone who enjoys the outdoors will absolutely love Hobart.
Yeah. I mean, I find it, and I've spoken about this before, it's really anchoring having that mountain view as you wake up, as you go to bed, as you're commuting from work to and fro. There's a couple of things I wanted to pick up on there. And first of all, forgive me, I should have congratulated you right at the start. You are a new dad. Catherine have welcomed little Charlie into your family. How has the new parent life been?
Yeah, well, 7 weeks tomorrow, and timing is what it is with the Kunanyi Mountain Run coming up in 2 weeks. But it's absolutely amazing. Like I've been looking forward to parenthood for many years, and it's come at a perfect time. My partner Catherine's an absolute legend, and Charlie's already frothing on the trails. We take him out for walks every day or so, and he falls promptly asleep, but that means he's comfortable in the natural environment. So it's awesome.
So you've just mentioned that you've got a lot of things going on at the moment, and yeah, I wasn't sure how we would quite go into this, but I think we'll just go there first. So the Kunanyi Mountain Run. So for those not familiar, Mount Wellington, Mount Kunanyi is the mountain we've just been discussing. And you are the race director for a very exciting trail event that's coming up very soon. Now, I think why don't we just talk about that now? And I think particularly what I'd like to ask you, this is something that many people have tried to get off the ground and failed. And, I want to know, why have you managed to succeed where others have struggled? And what have been the challenges? And I know that they will, they've obviously been surmountable, but they've been significant.
Yeah, no, thanks. I do know of at least 3, perhaps 4 event organisers who've had a look at this type of event on the mountain here in the past decade or so, and yeah, it's been too hard, I guess, or they've decided not to. That being said, the Kunanyi Trail Series was started by Russell and Michaela Venn 3 years ago, and they've been very successful. But that is a local scale event, a smaller community event, whereas the Kunanyi Mountain Run is certainly aims to be a world-class and national and even international scale event, comprising an ultra, a 27 mountain run, and then Australia's only vertical kilometre event. So that's the Australian Championships for skyrunning. So the challenges, well, Mount Wellington is governed by the Wellington Park Management Trust. That is a unique organisation set up just for Wellington Park, because the mountain is quite unique in that there's 5 different councils that own part of it. There's 3 land managers, so only 2 councils plus Parks and Wildlife manage the land, so that's different to the owners. There's a whole heap of private land, and a lot of the accesses into the park are through private land. There's all of that complexity, and all of those. And then there's Taswater and Tas networks with transmission lines, etc., etc. So the land tenure and management is quite complex, and and somewhat bureaucratic, I guess, as any land manager organisation is, and so that's been a major challenge. That's probably the key challenge, really, and gaining permits for a scale of event that works, that is feasible. So I think, to be honest, and the land managers have acknowledged this themselves, they had a bit of an arbitrary sort of, 100, 150 runners, off you go. We don't really want to. They didn't have resources or time to really consider the risk management framework and impacts mitigations that we were putting forward in the initial when we first approached them a few years ago. Yeah. And so we had to work with the wider community, including the tourism industry, to gain support for this concept, for this event, so that we'd actually even get a real seat at the table, so that the land managers and the like would sit down and take the time to have a look at the impact mitigations that we had in place, such that they could then be comfortable and support our event going ahead. So why would I want to do this? I like a challenge, and the vision that we've had, or that I've had and put forward, has really connected with people. Yeah. And some really key people, within the community here, and who've, really seen the value in it from a community and health and tourism perspective. It's amazing. So activating without, yes, it's been my vision and drive, but it doesn't happen without a team. And the team has been huge, and the vision's connected. We've had so many people, helping in so many different ways, and each person's contribution has been hugely valuable. And that's how it's happened. But there is one other key thing, and that's time. And I've just been super lucky that my situation has allowed me to self-fund me 2 days a week for the last 2 years, since I moved back to Tassie full-time, to work on this. And also Trail Ventures is the company that I've created to deliver this event. We've ended up doing a whole heap of track maintenance in the southwest and for this event. So that's all. Time and persistence is how we've overcome. Time, persistence, and team is how we've overcome those challenges.
That was, I think we've set a big theme for this season as lesson in leadership. There were so many gems in what you've just described there. There was vision, purpose, time, teamwork. And, I'm curious about, you are a civil engineer and obviously there's a lot of skills that you bring to the table with that role and job. Has that helped bring the KMR to fruition?
Oh, 100%. Without the skills that I've developed, not only through, civil engineering and project management, infrastructure project management, but also my, my adventure career, not that it's a professional career, but growing up off-track bushwalking and whitewater rafting and kayaking in Tassie as a teenager, then the passion was snowboarding and then had, good 10, 20 years of backcountry snowboarding in New Zealand and Europe and the US and the like. And then that switched in around 2010 to climbing and alpine climbing particularly. And so, did some that, I guess, peaked in doing some first ice and mixed ascents with the New Zealand Alpine team in Peru and also a bunch in New Zealand. Then I moved to PNG and no snow. The climbing was undeveloped and not many people there to do it. So I just was, what's my adventure? Adventure passions were kind of on hold, and I was doing a lot of, running and particularly on trails and up hills for fitness, and hiked the Kokoda track. That's 96 Ks and 6,000 meters vertical. Hiked that in 4 days for the first time. Then, well, it wasn't at the time, that's for sure. But and then got invited to do it in 3 days, and then I was like, well, how about we do it as a single push? Surely that's the next step, right? And a mate who was in PNG was keen, and we were doing some training together. And then Tom Brazier came across, who was on the Las Pativa team at the time, and we did that. It was a hike, right? Single push hike in under 30 hours, but we had some slow. We kept falling asleep in witching hour, and so we had only covered a third of the way of the distance in half of the time. So we knew we needed to step it up, and so started running the trail running, the flats and downs. Of course, you don't run uphill, and ran the rest of the way and got in under our 30-hour time frame. So that's what started me trail running. That started my trail running journey. That was only 2017. So sorry, that was dived into a story there.
No, you're answering my questions. I hadn't actually appreciated that it was as recently as 2017 that you had found trail running. And I certainly think that this sport and community is growing all of the time. It's very close to my heart. And I know that you have a number of other leadership roles within the sport here in Tasmania with the Tasmanian Trail Running Association and Hobart Trail Runners. And, talking about that connection and, obviously bringing people together and certainly KMR has been really important, as you've mentioned, in that respect. But I think that certainly my observation is that you're doing a great job of fostering community and connection locally through Hobart Trail Runners, for example. So a social group that are meeting once a week on a Wednesday, all comers, bring your kids, your dogs, come along, own pace, out and back, see some of our beautiful local trails, and then come and have a meal and a drink and, connect. Let's share some stories. And I think that's very powerful, particularly through a period of relative disconnection through a pandemic. And look, I know that Tasmania has been a bit more fortunate in that was able to continue through the past couple of years. But I'd be curious to hear your own observations, any feedback you've had from people that have joined Hobart Trail Runners and the momentum that I think I certainly see that you've created.
Yeah, cool. Well, I mean, I'm a very social person. I guess as an extrovert, I thrive off sharing experiences and having conversations and spending time with people doing cool stuff. And when I moved home, you know, was like, all right, I'm a trail runner now. Now that I've figured out I can, run long ways, I want to go and run all those multi-day bushwalks I did as a kid, but also connect with the local community to find the people who have the skills and experience and are keen to do those kinds of things. Hence, got back here and was like, oh, okay, where do we find people? Well, Facebook seems to be a good thing. Found Hobart Trail Runners and was connecting with people there, but was asking questions and listening to the community as well. And the question was, what do we want Hobart Trail Runners to be? What would be something that would work to connect our community better? And it was very clear very quickly that a regular run for all abilities to allow people who are already here to connect, and anyone who's visiting or new people to Hobart can meet the community. And that's what I did. It was seriously that simple. Okay, create one regular run, same time, same place, same. So it becomes familiar and it's easy to know what you're in for and to get on board. And from that, there's people meet people, and so many running partners or running friendships have happened. And also, people. So we've had people in like Hobartians who've been running on trails for all their life, solo generally, have come in and gone, wow, I thought running was a solo thing, and it's this social thing is awesome. And then other people who've just moved down and had met so many friends on the same wavelength and the like, so quickly through Hobart Trail Runners that they've found their people, found their community. And then others who have heard of the benefits of trail running. So there's obvious physical health benefits of trail running, but the mental health benefits are really massive as well. I mean, the mental health benefits of physical activity and exercise are known, but then the mental health aspects of getting out in nature. I mean, there is adventure therapy. That's known as well, but combine the two into trail running and make it super accessible that you can finish work on time, head out with a group of people, and, you've had your mental health fix or your well-being, taking care of yourself. Only one night a week. That's been hugely powerful, and we've had that feedback. That's been actually the main feedback that we've had from people coming to a HTR Wednesday is, this is perfect for my mental health and well-being. It's exactly what I need. Once a week, block out the diary, work stops, I get in the car, get there, and just connect with the people who are out there for the same thing, get on the trails, breathe, and enjoy the nature. It's been amazing. So I mean, around the events is something else, but I've been super buoyed, and you talk about leadership, and that's such an interesting one. And if there's any leader who thinks they know everything, they're absolutely kidding themselves, including are they actually a leader? I mean, it's such a continual journey of learning how to connect with people and provide vision so that it's, we're all heading in the same direction and all that sort of thing. It's, I've got a lot to learn, that's for sure. But as hey, I'll put my hand up. I'm more outcomes focused. Right, that's what we're going to achieve. Who's on board? Let's go. Let's do it. And I know I could be a little more empathetic at times. So.
Brilliant. I'm sitting here thinking, oh, gee, we need you on the ad breaks on the TV or heading up a major public health campaign, promoting all the physical, mental, emotional, social benefits for getting out in nature, walking, hiking, running, connecting with people in place. That was brilliant. But on that last part, because I am very interested in your leadership journey, and I know that you have done a few specific trainings to support that in recent years. And I'd love to know what the major lessons, challenges, highlights, lowlights you have had to date, anything that you can share with us.
Yeah, wow. I mean, let's call them the light bulb moments. The light bulb moments, which are fundamental shifts in unlocking your true potential. One was, and this was about 10 years ago or so, was that everyone has weaknesses. Everyone has challenges, and it's okay not to be what you want to be, or you've got to expect that yourself and people that are working with you will make mistakes, and mistakes are okay. And the honesty around putting your hand up on those mistakes is hugely powerful, because only once you put your hand up on that mistake, can you then truly learn from it. And that learning from mistakes is by far the most powerful thing in anyone's development, whether it's an individual or an organization or any kind of team. When you connect around, or be honest about mistakes or challenges and work it together and learn together, that's when, that's when you really meld as a team and develop. Now, that's time is required to do that, and that's not always easy with a team, and particularly when a lot of people are volunteers and working full time and the like. So that's been a key challenge, I guess, with any volunteer organisation, of getting the time with people to have that alignment.
So how have you navigated that in the past and continuing to do at the moment?
Yeah, that's a good one. It's making sure the vision is clear and the objectives and what we're trying to achieve is clear. And most importantly, why? Why does this matter? And connecting it always back to the fundamental purpose and objectives of the event itself. So to use KMR as an example, the purpose of the event is to share and connect. Every step a story is our tagline, and that's every participant, or not only participant, everyone who comes into contact with KMR, whether that's a volunteer, a runner, support crew, a local resident, a stakeholder, anyone who sort of comes into contact with KMR, we want them to leave their KMR experience with a story, and a story of learning about Kunanyi Mount Wellington and the history around it, particularly the Tasmanian Aboriginal community, and also their own story. I mean, for runners, I mean, we've curated some of the most amazing courses. I'm not afraid to really say I'm super stoked with these courses. It took me a year of running, plotting so many different options, because there's so many options up there, and then crafting something that really captures all the diverse landscapes and some of the history, the visual history that's there. Sorry, I've probably gone off.
No, this is wonderful. I'm listening, and there'll be people listening saying, also, how can I find out about this race? And is there still opportunities to volunteer, opportunities to run, opportunities to be involved? Because I know there's going to be an opening ceremony, and I think local community members might even want to just come along to be part of that experience. Can you speak a bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're just over 2 weeks out. We running registrations are closing the Wednesday beforehand. We actually only have 4 spots left on the Ultra Solo event. So if you're sitting on the fence, then jump in right now, or maybe they've even gone by the time this podcast gets published. We have sold out on the 27K, but if you're on or get on the wait list, we can probably get you in, and plenty of spots left available on the relay, the ultra relay. And that's where I reckon that's what's going to be the most popular for this event long term, because that's going to be so much fun. Jump in the car with your mates. You each get to share. You're sharing the saga. every leg the course has been curated to be an epic mini adventure in its own right. And then, of course, the Australian Vertical Kilometre Championships is going to be it's a competitive event. It's going to be highly contested. We've got a lot of Australia's vertical stars coming down. The La Sportiva team, most of them are coming down.
Alice, who's previously been on the podcast. I really enjoyed the video interview you did with herself a few weeks ago.
Yeah, and we've got some local crew who got a bit of a local advantage there, knowing the technical nature of the last bit of the course. But yeah, so head on to website Kunanyi Mountain Run. You can access the registration portal there. A whole heap of info is there, including the link to the volunteers. We have massive events like this don't happen without massive teams of legendary volunteers, and we still do have a number of volunteer spots available, whether that's in the Run Hub, checking gear, runners check-ins, food and beverage, or out on course doing really important course marshalling duties, making sure at key points, particularly if you're on a fire trail and need to step down onto a single trail. If we don't have someone there, then people will, no doubt one or two people or more will plough straight ahead. So we're trying to avoid those situations.
I'm notorious for doing things like that when I'm enjoying the trails.
Yeah,
I don't pay attention to the markings, Lincoln.
Yeah, well, and it's an interesting one because, of course, as a trail run, it's not an adventure race. It's not orienteering or road gaining. It's a fully marked course, and so because it is marked, then it should be. It's always a fine line of how much do we mark, and do you tape off things that you shouldn't go down and all that sort of stuff, and then you've got to maintain public access for other users of those trails, so you can't actually fully tape across. So it's a fine balance, and part of our key risk management aspects around that is having volunteers. So we've probably got more volunteers out on course than other races do, but feedback from other events that I've created, such as the Tarkina Ultra, it's really nice to see friendly faces out on the course when you're hurting, and it's particularly when it's getting dark and the like. So it's going to be a great event. If you don't want to run and aren't able to volunteer, still come down to the Run Hub at Wellesley Park. All the info and location is on the website. We've got a community and cultural events program. One of the things I'm most excited about is sharing as much of the Tasmanian Aboriginal stories as we could. And of course, they're not our stories to tell. They are the Palawa community stories to tell. So providing that opportunity for them to come in. So we've got an amazing welcome to country on the Friday afternoon at 6 p.m. So come on in for that. We've got dance and movement workshops, which Pakana Kanaplila is hosting, talks on country with Aboriginal community members, and then Bush Care, Land Care are also hosting a stall and some activities. So it's really important for us to, as part of the story, connect our people with the organisations who take care of the land, and that's Bush Care and Land Care, and so you can do track maintenance, weeding, and all that sort of good stuff there. We also have a stall on it's by List the Mountain, and it's around all around the history of the mountain, and more from a colonial aspect, I guess, but they still have some of the traditional owners' stories as well. But yeah, all around the tracks and the huts, and there's ice houses. What were they, etc., etc. So some great old photographs and stories there. And no jumping castles, absolutely not. But I think we'll have some kids face painting, and some of those bush care adventures will be, suitable for kids. Intro to ultra running and trail running with Ben Hurst. So a bunch of small group activities which are ticketed. So jump on and grab your tickets. And on the Sunday, so Saturday is really the main sort of run day, and the Run Hub is going to be the start finish line, and MCs and a bit of ambient music, but it's all about running and the runners coming in, cheering them, and lots of food and beverage. We've got a couple of bars and with alcoholic and non-alcoholic drinks, and a whole heap of amazing food vans, so spectators and runners alike can get a great feed when they're finished, or any time during the day. But then Sunday is more of a sort of a community day. So the start finish for the vertical kilometre is not at the run hub. So we'll still keep our beautiful arch, and that becomes a bit of our stage for the presentations at 2:00, and then we'll roll straight into, and I'm super stoked to announce we've just signed up a Tassie musician. Tim Gables will be giving us a couple of sets of originals and covers straight after that. So a little bit of a celebration. Hopefully all the interstates have booked flights late Sunday or Monday, so that we can hang around and have a good time Sunday after.
I mean, it sounds incredible, and huge congratulations again for getting this event off the ground. No mean feat in itself. And I do think that, what you describe really speaks to my impression and experience of you as a person. And I know that you have said this is a team and an army that you've helped guide to really speak to those things that I think about when I think of Lincoln, which is someone who brings people together and has this deep respect for land, for culture, for community. And what you've just described is a real testament to that. And I think, speaking of Lincoln as the individual, because I haven't really gone into your own running and that, why you run. And again, I hope this is fair to say, when I think of you and your running, and certainly some of the adventures that you have had in the past few years, I do think of you as someone who likes to run off piste, blaze your own trail. And, I'm kind of curious how you reconcile the need to at times conform and, have that very sensible, I suppose, the civil engineer side of you, where you actually need to think about the planning, designing, risk management, and infrastructure, and how that marries with the wild and adventurous side. Do you struggle ever to reconcile those two parts of you?
Actually, not at all. No, because there's two aspects. One is my personal adventures, where anything goes. Like, in all the public lands, you are allowed to walk, hence run, wherever you want. And so, getting out there and, linking up epic skylines. So there's a couple of epic skyline traverses. Hey, I really like skyline traverses, by the way. There's two on at the back of the mountain, which I've been looking at for ages. And so, imagine linking that up. There's a huge descent down into the valley and then up again, and really steep, all off track. And did it the other day when I decided I couldn't go to Going Nuts, because guess what? I only had a 4-week-old or 3-week-old son. So whereas the structured, so what I'm doing around the events is providing a structured, fully risk assessed, and not to say that my personal adventures aren't risk assessed, they all are, but there's different level of risk appetite. It's just myself. Whereas if I'm sending, a few hundred runners out into the bush, then the risk appetite is a lot lower, and we're making sure that everyone is fully prepared. That being said, I actually, the mandatory gear is what I take out on big adventures, except I just add a couple more pieces of insulation. That's it. Because on the mountain run, for example, we've got heaps of course marshals, we've got sweepers, we've got professional medical team, et cetera, et cetera. So part of, the Kunanyi Mountain Run, you will get, that's a learning of, hey, this is the gear to carry to then look at going on personal adventures. So no, I think there's a neat separation, and I really enjoy providing a curated experience through events for people, whether that's their first trail run at all, and providing something that has adventure. It will certainly feel very, very adventurous, but providing that level of safety and security around it. or for the seasoned trail runner, super experienced, they will have an epic experience as well, because the course is pretty brutal and absolutely epic, and all the landscapes. But just flipping back to personal adventures, Tassie is an epic playground. I was doing FIFO for a little bit as part of my transition to come back to Tassie, and it was getting distracted by thinking of all the cool adventures I was needing to have in Tassie, and wrote them all down, so they're out of my head onto the paper, and then was like,
top tip.
That's like 5 years of holidays. It's endless. There's so many adventures, and I've got a whole heap lined up. They are prioritised, and when time allows, around parenting and creating events and civil engineering and the Tasmanian Trail Running Association and Churchill Fellowship, you'll see some more adventures come out.
I expect nothing less, Lincoln. Before I go on to ask you about how you integrate all of these roles, jobs, projects, side hustles, you've just mentioned the Churchill Fellowship. I really wanted to speak to you a bit about that. I'd love if you could tell us a bit about the Winston Churchill Fellowship Programme, why you applied and what you plan to do. And I know that your plans have been postponed through the past couple of years with the pandemic travel restrictions. But hopefully we'll go ahead later this year and will be a big part of what Lincoln does next.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the Winston Churchill Trust was set up just before Winston passed in the 60s. And as a way it was his legacy. He said, right, I want everyday people, because he came from a working class family, I believe. He wants everyday people to be able to, travel internationally, learn and bring back those learnings to the country of origin. So there's one in the UK here, and I don't know, potentially elsewhere. But that's what the fellowship is for. Anyone can apply from any walk of life with any project. But those that are successful are people who know their topic, have a strong community purpose and benefit of that research, and know where they need to go and why to learn from the best practice internationally on that topic and bring it back. So my topic is to explore the key features and benefits of aspirational trail running destinations. So you think of places like Chamonix and Boulder, Colorado, and Tromsø, Norway, and the like, and they have really strong trail running communities, and Hobart's trail running community is growing and strengthening, and I'd say is very healthy. But aspirational, I mean, Chamonix, epic. Anyone who's ever any serious trail runner, no doubt, has Chamonix, and potentially if you're into events, then UTMB on there, pretty high on the bucket list. So
I love that you could potentially be in 3 countries in one day in that area of the world. It's fantastic.
Yeah. No, it's epic. And so Tasmania and Hobart, particularly with the mountain right there, and I'm looking at it right now, it's so amazing. We have such an epic opportunity, epic trails are on our doorstep. We have such an amazing diversity, which, other places don't generally have, that, we could have the strongest trail running community in Australia, or even in this sector of the world, I'm sure. And that's I guess, a goal, an end goal, towards the end of my life. If we have, so here it is, my end goal, I guess, or objective, my legacy wants to be, and this is everything I'm doing is all focused on this. have so much benefit out of trail running with mental health, physical health, and community. And I want to share those benefits that I get with everyone else in Hobart, Tasmania, and the world. And community coming together and actually talking about some of the tough topics. And
Yeah, I love your passion, Lincoln. You really are in full flow.
yeah, well, I'm flowing through my journey, and yeah, I've got a lot of people are on this journey as well, which is awesome. But it's not it's not very often that you sort of take a step out and have a think about all of it and see what impact that might be making to others or the community as a whole. And so, none of this is really for me. I mean, certainly, geez, if I was trying to make money from any of this, it's not what it's about. That doesn't happen.
Yeah, but that's an important point. You still have to pay the bills. So what do you do on those days where you think this is actually too hard and you're tempted to just walk away?
Yeah, well, I like a challenge, and seeing the fruits of the labour produce something that is of value to the community, and that positive feedback as a social person is really, that's the reward. That's why I do these things. And I mean, but what's the end goal? And I guess really the legacy that I'm aiming for is that I gain so much benefit from trail running with the physical and mental health benefits, but also connection to community and making meaningful contributions. And
giving
we've
back.
seen, yeah, and I mean, we've seen people having the real conversations, the tough conversations on divisive issues, and people coming together from different walks of life or different ideologies, and that coming together through trail running, and that is generating a more cohesive community. And so Tassie is so divisive, as most of the Western world is more and more becoming, along ideological lines. And that's delving into that is not what I want to do. Definitely not. All I want to do is connect people with the benefits that I gain, which is really connecting with nature, connecting with yourself, and connecting with community, so that overall we are a more healthy and connected community.
Wonderful. And I understand as part of the fellowship programme overseas, you will be visiting my home country to experience some of the Scottish trail and mountain running scene, which is very exciting. I feel very at home here. I do sometimes say that I think I've settled in the most Scottish part of Australia. And I feel the same in South Island in New Zealand. Similar landscape, mountain and sheep. I think they all have a Ben Lomond. And I definitely feel at home travelling up through the middle of Tasmania and, through places like Campbelltown. So I'm very excited to hear what your impressions and experiences are going to be like in Scotland.
Yeah, no, I reckon I've got Scottish blood in me. To be honest, I've always connected really well with the Scottish people, and we've got to be cut from the same sheet, I think. So yeah, I'm planning to travel for my Churchill Fellowship in July this year. A couple of weeks in Colorado, and maybe a stint up to Washington for Hard Rock 100, and then Tromsø in Norway, probably Lofoten, and then up to Tromsø for the Tromsø Sky Race. So that's the only run I'm planning to actually do, and that's been on my bucket list since I very first heard about it the day I got back from the Kokoda single push. And then going to England and Scotland. So they're planning to. I need to do some more planning, and Shez, you're going to help me with exactly who I need to connect with over there.
The Scottish, I'm sure I can line you up with some bed and board somewhere in Scotland.
Awesome. So the home of fell running, where it's, from what I can see, very much a community generated grassroots community, and really hard people doing serious stuff. And that is
Have you read Feet in the Clouds?
No.
Right, so I'm going to give you, I think it's going to be my turn this week to do the reading recommendations. I've got some homework for you. So two of my favourite books on this topic. So Feet in the Clouds talks about the history of fell running in both Scotland and in the Lake District, and some of the local legends. And, I think some of the records are unbroken even today. I watched an interesting documentary a few years ago on many of the people that are described in this book. And one of the more recent reads by Johnny Muir, not to be confused with John Muir, who's famous for the original quote, is called The Mountains Are Calling. I did a review for this in Trail Runner Mag a few years ago. It's an incredible read about the Scottish mountain running scene and the Ramsay Round and all the famous runs around the Munros. And I think this really interesting conversation about the kind of evolution of the sport from kind of grassroots, no frills, you get a soup and a sandwich at the end of the run in the mud, versus Scotland and Glencoe have now got their own ultra sky running series, which obviously attracts an international elite crowd, and obviously along with that is advertising and sponsorship and money, and race fees and all the rest of it, and a really interesting discussion about how you marry the two of those. So I'm curious to know your thoughts actually on that very topic.
Yeah, no, it's quite an interesting one that I've been thinking a bit about, and I think both are amazing. Local, low price, really community driven, 100% volunteers sort of events, or the larger commercial events. I think they can coexist together, side by side. They attract the same people, but also slightly different people, completely different vibe, and I don't think there's any right or wrong. To be honest, I think there'll always be, people who think one or the other is not the way it should be. But hey, everyone's got their own sort of opinion or what they want to do. Doesn't mean the other is wrong. So I think they can both coexist, and certainly in terms of connecting, my view is that I want to connect more people with nature and through trail running. To do that, we need to connect with the people who aren't already doing it. To do that, we need marketing, and that needs funding, and that only really happens in a true sense with commercial type activity. So UTMB, as the pinnacle of what amazing marketing can do building a huge global community around UTMB. So that's one aspect, and the other is the very local, only the local people really know about it. Sometimes in the very rare circumstance like the Barclays, because that's quite unique, does that local scale sort of event spread and get known. So with my objective of connecting more of the community with the trails, then I think I'm more on the side of getting more marketing out there and more presence in the wider community.
Yeah, and I think I've come to the conclusion that they can and should coexist, these kind of events. And I'm really looking forward to hearing your experience, your insights, your lessons that you take back from immersing yourself in trail running, big and small, across the globe. And I'm pretty sure I'm not alone in saying that I'm incredibly jealous. It sounds utterly fantastic. I think people know that if I can combine a medical conference, some kind of trail adventure in a new place, meeting new people, that's pretty much the pinnacle for me. And I can't wait to get back to some of that action. So just as we move to close, and this is something that comes up quite frequently on this podcast, particularly when, I am talking to people who are pretty goal driven and passionate about their purpose. And you've already mentioned that having time and space to trail run and connect with people and places important for your own, particularly mental health and well-being. I'm conscious that you are working towards a big goal at the moment, and we do talk about how that integration works. So what does that look like for you when you are very busy? How do you make time for yourself, and do you prioritize your own health and well-being?
Yeah, very, very good question. And I'm not running as much as I would like right now, that's for sure. And also my civil engineering employer is very supportive. So that helps. Everything that I'm doing with the Kunanyi Mountain Run, Kunanyi Trail Series, the Churchill Tasmanian Trail Running Association, and Hobart Trail Runners, it's all aligned. It's all in the same direction of connecting people with nature out on the trails, building community. And so every cent or every second of time spent on any of those is all valuable to, strive towards the end goal. Civil engineering, well, you got to keep the lights on. So, you got to give that the 3 days a week at the moment. I mean, maybe in a year or so, this is a key question for me. Can I sustain, can I dedicate myself full time to this trail running journey and earn a living from it? And that really goes back to that question of grassroots, community-led, volunteer-led events or not. And certainly you have to have commercial scale events to be able to sustain any kind of wages whatsoever. Absolutely. And so that's one aspect. I will need to, I think, after KMR for the first year, have a bit of a think about what the balance looks like, particularly with new family. And that is, of course, the number one. And they will get very quickly integrated with all the adventures and everything else. But, the only thing that, or the main thing for me in terms of my mental health and well-being is I listen to myself. As soon as I'm feeling the stress levels come up too high, stop. Before it goes any further, I know when to let go. And I let people know in my team, hey guys, look, I need some time out. I'm going out in the bush, or I'm off tonight because I'm done. I need to give the head some time and space.
I think that's an important skill set. I think that's a form of superpower. Is that something you've learned over time?
Yeah, that's actually a good one. I mean, the origins, I guess, is learning when to say no. And that was some training 10 years ago I got with my, engineering employer, because as engineering consulting, it's easy you want to say yes to everyone all the time. And it's very quickly becomes overloaded. And so then you can't deliver any good quality for anyone, and that doesn't work. So in the structure of that, I guess, very quickly is understanding your availability. I've only got this many hours. That is all I can dedicate to everything else before I need time for myself, for my own mental health. And then, when everything you say before saying yes to anything, evaluate, well, how much time is that going to take? Does it fit? Yes or no? Do I want to do it? Before saying yes. And it's tough. And the hardest person to say no to is yourself. Well, is myself anyway, in my case. 100%. 100%. You get all these great ideas and, you just want to, hey, that'd be so cool. But you need to deliver the thing you're currently working on. Otherwise, was that a good use of time that you've gotten this far? It's you need to deliver. And actually, the little one on with KMR, earlier last year, or mid last year, I should say, I was at a point of like realizing how much time and effort it would take to deliver this event, and was like, oh, really? Do I really want to do that? And, in the first year, particularly lean on so many amazing people's time to volunteer to get the event off the ground, notwithstanding the heap of volunteers we need on the day. This is all the volunteer team who's come along for the journey thus far. And the answer was yes. And why? Because the community has wanted this event for decades. And so that's what it was. The legacy piece was also a big part of that for me, but I decided that that wasn't important enough. The legacy that I spoke of earlier was not important enough to put me and the team we have through the amount of time and difficulties in getting it together. It was really that our community here in Hobart, Tasmania, Australia, because there's heaps of people. We've got 27% interstate. That's crazy in this COVID world and for a first year event. But it was a community who wanted this event to happen, and that was the driver for why I and we, and I did ask everyone, all our volunteer team, they're there for their own reasons and for the aligned vision of delivering an epic event. So listening to yourself and understanding your own triggers and or feelings when the stress levels start to rise, knowing where you need to draw that line and what that actually feels like. Because quite often I find people keep going and don't know where that line is, and it's a lot lower than you think.
And I sometimes think, and we talked about this before, I think it's the pushers that usually find themselves halfway down the well before they realise that they're in trouble.
Yeah.
I mean, your passion, your drive, I just think there's so many pearls in terms of leadership lessons and that I think leaving a legacy and what actually drives you and motivates you. I've really, really enjoyed listening to you. I'd like to just finish. We talk about the Self-Care Sunday on this project. We talk about Sunday Trail Church as well. Once this is all over, if you could design your perfect Self-Care Sunday with your family, what's it going to look like?
Oh, wow. Trail Church Sundays. Where have I been? What rock have I been hiding under? That sounds awesome. Oh, yes.
I'm surprised you've not heard that expression.
Because I've been thinking a bit about, building community and community coming together. And churches have obviously been doing this for thousands of years, right? And that's amazing. Like that parallel. And there's the Sunday Trail Church. It's just connected. That's perfect. Well, anywhere in Tasmania, to be honest, we've got wild coastlines. We've got epic quartzite mountains in the southwest, which are not for really your after work type of adventures. I mean, Kunanyi Mount Wellington. It's on our back doorstep. And
favorite run there then?
Favourite run for me is Cathedral Montague Thumbs Traverse. So that's included in leg 4 of the Ultra Skyline Traverse. I just love Skyline Traverses, but also part of the VK course. So there's you can loop that around with like the zigzag track and organ pipes track. That is also one of my favorite loops on the mountain. But with family, I guess, young kids, well, hey, he can come in the backpack. So
starting him young, Lincoln. I love it. And other favorite things to do in our beautiful city in Hobart, if you have some time later on in the day?
A Hobart Trail Runners Run. Hands down, even when you don't want to go, as soon as you've got the blood moving, and the endorphins start flowing, it's like, oh yes, I'm so glad I came out. So personally, I really struggle with kicking my ass out the door if I'm just going for a run by myself. It almost never happens. And so, as soon as I commit to someone else, then it happens. So, but sort of answer the question, any time that I strap on the runners and get out the door is just epic. And no matter where that is in Hobart, out my my back door across the other side of the river into the Meon Range, or Shag Bay along the foreshore there. Even when you're in town and go for a quick lunchtime, the Domain where I'm sitting right now is amazing.
That's
And
my
it's
local
right
haunt.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or even up the Rivulet track, to Cascade, the amazing building that everyone will run past as well. And there are hidden gems, no matter where you live, of trails that you can access. And that's what I encourage everyone to do, is just have a look on the map or go for a little walk and find that trail that is, 10 minutes away from you that you can access any day, before work, after work, lunchtime, whatever. Because connecting with that trail, whether it's in urban or wilderness, it's got the same benefits.
Wonderful, Lincoln. Thank you for sharing the morning with me and spoiling me with all these wonderful views of our beautiful Mount Kunanyi. I'll put a link to the race website for Kunanyi Mountain Run, the Kunanyi Mountain Series, Tasmanian Trail Running Association, Hobart Trail Runners, and I will give you the links for those books that I recommended. You've got some reading to do in preparation for coming to Bonnie, Scotland. I'll see you on the trail soon.
So why would I want to do this? I like a challenge, and the vision that we've had, or that I've had and put forward, has really connected with people, and some really key people within the community here, and who've really seen the value in it from a community and health and tourism perspective. It's amazing. So activating without, yes, it's been my vision and drive, but it doesn't happen without a team.
The MBA New South Wales ACT does wonderful work for those of our colleagues who are, at this very minute, experiencing a hard time. One way you can show you care about doctors' welfare is to go to their website, www.mbansw.org.au, and donate today. Knowing that their colleagues' care is a big part of these doctors' recovery, so please be part of the solution. All donations are tax deductible. If you can, please consider a monthly donation, as even small amounts collectively will allow them to plan their growth to support the increased demand.